In light of the national climate, I thought it was time to discuss some minor drawbacks of using violence for political ends. Namely, why does political violence say something much deeper about the political machine that go way deeper than any partisan divide ever could, and why the factors that influence political violence ultimately end up consuming democracy itself.
People seek a solution to what they think are their political problems. And that is part of the rising violence that we're seeing across the board politically, and also part of the rhetoric that has been increasing on polarized lines that positions us versus them in existential terms, so that the other starts to seem like a threat that has to be eradicated.
So let's have a calm, civilized discussion about political violence. In September 2016, Michael Anton, under the pen name Publius Decius Mus, penned the essay The Flight 93 Election. Jesus. The title is a reference to the September 11th flight destined for a target in D.C. that crashed in Pennsylvania after passengers stormed the cockpit. It was an extremely influential essay that energized Republicans and got Mr. Anton a job working for President Donald Trump. In it, Anton derides Republicans opposed to Trump, highlights Trump's winning stances during a rising populist tide, namely stances on immigration, trade, and war, and makes the case that a Hillary Clinton presidency would ultimately accelerate the decline of an already declining republic. It's a lot to unpack. I actually think it's very prescient in its tone and framing of an election. Everything is at stake. If you don't win, then you're not going to have a country anymore. That democracy itself will cease to exist. It's a very salient appeal to fear and desperation. I mean, contrast these almost Socratic-style debates from 2012 against the election discourse today.
And over the last 4 years, small business people have decided that America may not be the place to open a new business, because new business startups are down to a 30-year low. I know what it takes to get small business growing again, to hire people. Now, I'm concerned that the path that we're on has just been unsuccessful.
Governor Romney and I both agree that our corporate tax rate is too high. So I want to lower it, particularly for manufacturing, taking it down to 25%. But I also want to close those loopholes that are giving incentives for companies that are shipping jobs overseas. I want to provide tax breaks for companies that are investing here in the United States.
The crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star.
The very existence of the Republic was never doubted in campaigns calling for hope, change, and belief. The American arc, ever upward, absent a major global adversary, but now it's front and center. This creates a manufactured culture of fear, specifically fear of the other. People are willing to do a lot of things in the face of fear and desperation, maybe even just to make that feeling go away. Continuing the 9/11 theme, after the attack, civil liberties scholars were rightfully worried that people in a now extremely stressed and fearful national climate would be willing to weaken the Constitution and trade away their rights for security, or just to get the sense of security back. This is a flexing of the Overton window of beliefs, which is the range of beliefs that are socially acceptable to hold. In fearful, stressed environments, this window expands. Manufacturing cultures of fear ultimately lead to irrationality and unpredictability. You don't get to choose the manifestation of the fear that you're sowing. And that's first and foremost a threat to democracy at its core. By embracing this culture, campaigns inadvertently create a radicalization funnel. The logic goes something like this: I do not like the other. The other is dangerous. I am fearful that the other will grab power. Other is a manifestation of an opposing power structure or ideology. Violence against the dehumanized other is justified and desirable. Those of you familiar with accelerationist thinking might see some overlaps here. Accelerationists want to accelerate or force some end. So we can add to that logical chain: the system isn't responsive enough to my ideological goals. So violence is the only way to spur the change desired. 1 second. It would be really nice to go a day without thinking about the accelerationist. Just gonna have to pour with my heart here. Drivers of rage in the political system are not new. Factors that create extreme frustration with the political system include, but are not limited to, these systemic failures create opportunities for divisions to be inflamed. We already know about how politicians say a thing and the media uncritically circulate it, or how platforms distill all of our interactions into metrics that are fed into an ensemble of models to serve us the exact correct rage bait at the exactly right moment. We don't need to relitigate all of that. However, the way that inflammatory content can normalize, abstract, and generalize violence is important. Violence in media is pretty common. It's often valorized, romanticized, or used as narrative. Violent imagery has been especially prominent in the last 10 years. That violent imagery can do two things. First, it can normalize, or worse, inadvertently glorify acts of political violence through reinforcement. Second, this imagery can act as sort of a political affiliation Rorschach test, further deepening divisions. Is the action associated with the image abhorrent, or is it aspirational? We use heuristics and psychological shortcuts to inform our model of the world, our concept of the world. We abstract and generalize topics subconsciously. And because of that, calls to any sort of violence can be abstracted and generalized to a higher level. A sort of political violence snowballing, if you will. So, for example, if a senator were to call for physically removing protesters from an area, a situation that could obviously result in violence, there is a chain of abstraction and generalization that occurs to normalize that behavior further. That chain goes coded language for violence against this specific activist group is okay. Abstracted, doing violence against my ideological opponent is okay. Generalized, political violence is okay. To extremists and accelerationists, that opponent is probably the political system at large. In his 1919 essay, Politics as a Vocation, sociologist Max Weber outlines how states are founded upon violence and maintain a monopoly over the legal use of force. According to Weber, power is an exercise in maintaining, distributing, and transferring that ability to use force legally. Nations that are considered advanced democracies have captured this violence and channeled it away from the streets and into more idealistic form, like the ballot box, the courts, the halls of the legislature, the firing of a firearm, the blasting of a bomb, the clash of blades are replaced with discussion, discourse, and election. Really think about an election for a second. What is an election, and what would happen in its absence? Would we get a bloody revolution every so often when the national temperature has changed dramatically? In the 1951 book titled The True Believer, author Eric Hoffer describes the reasons why mass movements emerge to challenge the status quo and who become the movement's most zealous converts. The largest source identified is, quote, the new poor, the newly disenfranchised, the fearful, and the enraged, galvanized by an enemy, real or imagined.